Speak with Canadians.
Bonjour tout le monde. Merci d'être des nôtres.
Thank you for being here.
Pour lutter contre la COVID-19,
To fight COVID-19, we are asking everyone to stay home as much as possible. But these recommendations have had the effect of slowing down business activity. Some have even had to shut down. And that's concerning not only for business people, but for your employees who need their paycheck in order to meet their own needs. We therefore introduced a plan in 3 points to protect jobs and people who have been laid off, as well as supporting businesses who are having problems with cash flow. But we know that for many people, their major concern is to ensure that they can continue to receive a salary. We therefore announced a wage subsidy last week to encourage employers to keep their employees on payroll.
To help employers keep people on the payroll, we announced that the government would subsidize up to 75% of wages for qualifying businesses. We know what businesses are going through. Over the past weeks, you've had to get creative to keep money coming in. And in some cases, you've had to make the difficult decision of letting your employees go. For people to get through this tough time and for the economy to rebound, people have to keep their jobs. So we announced the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. I said last week that we'd have more details to share, and that's the first thing I want to talk with you about today. If your business's revenues have decreased by at least 30% because of COVID-19, you will be eligible for this subsidy. The number of employees you have will not determine whether or not you get this support. It will apply to nonprofit organizations and charities, as well as companies both big and small. This is about making sure that people are still getting paid, whether they work for a business that employs 10 people or 1,000 people. So here's what this means for workers. If you work for a company that has been impacted by COVID-19, the government will cover up to 75% of your salary on the first $58,700 that you earn. That means up to $847 a week. As I mentioned on Friday, this will be backdated to March 15th. This subsidy will make a real difference in your lives and help everyone affected bridge to better times. In Quebec, it's going to help trucking and logistics company Energy Transportation Group to stay in business so they can keep moving essential goods like food and toilet paper. In Calgary, it'll give a little breathing room to the Benj Hair Salon, which had to close shop to protect the health and safety of their clients. Minister Morneau and Minister Ng are working hard to give companies the background documents explaining the technical details of this measure. And on that note, I want to thank the public service who's working around the clock to get this done.
Businesses that show that their revenues have gone down by at least 30% will be eligible for the wage subsidy announced last week. The number of employees will not determine your eligibility. The subsidy will apply to nonprofit organizations and charities, as well as to companies big and small. We want people to be able to continue to be paid, whether they're working for a business that has 10 employees or 1,000 employees. So if the business for which you work has been impacted by COVID-19, the government will cover up to 75% of your salary on the first $58,700 that you earn. That means $847 per week. Up to $847 per week. As I said last week, that subsidy will be retroactive to March 15th. Ministers Ng and Morneau are working very hard to provide more details to companies as quickly as possible. And in that regard, I want to thank the entire public service that is working 24/7 to finalize the documents and information on this.
About you, about hard-working employees across the country. It's about making sure you have money to buy groceries right now and a job to come back to later once we're through this. Every business of every size is having to make some difficult decisions because of COVID-19, and that's why the number of employees is not the eligibility criteria we've chosen. This is in line with best practices we've observed in other countries. That said, I want to offer a word of caution to businesses. We are trusting you to do the right thing. If you have the means to pay the remaining 25% that's not covered by the subsidy, please do so. And if you think this is a system you can take advantage of or game, don't. There will be serious consequences for those who do. This unprecedented situation calls for unprecedented action, and it calls for good faith and trust between everyone involved. We are in this together, and that's why our government is stepping up to help all employers keep their employees. But for this to work, everyone has to do their part. Every dollar of this should go to workers. You should make every effort to top up their wages and every effort to hire back those workers who've been laid off in the past 2 weeks because of COVID-19. That's why we set up a comprehensive 3-point plan to support everyone across the economy, weather the storm, and come roaring back. With the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, we're protecting jobs. With the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, we're helping those who lose their job. And with easy, guaranteed loans for businesses of all sizes, we're helping people who need it access credit. I'd
like to speak directly to businesses for a minute. We trust you to do the right thing. If you are able to pay the 25% that is not covered by the wage subsidy, please do. If you think that you can take advantage of the system, please do not do that. There will be serious consequences for any of those who try to take advantage. We are in an unprecedented situation, and that means that we have to take unprecedented action. But this crisis is calling on us all to act in good faith. We are all in the same boat, and that is why our government wants to help all employers to keep their employees. But in order for our strategy to work, everyone has to do his or her share. Every dollar is intended for employees. You must do everything you can to supplement their wages and rehire any workers who were laid off in the last 2 weeks. We have a plan, a 3-point plan to help the economy to rebound. For employers and employees, we have the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. If you lose your job or if you are self-employed, the new Canada Emergency Response Benefit will be there for you. And if you have problems with cash flow, we have announced a number of measures to help you. And in addition, to give you more time to make your payments and pay what you need to pay, we have postponed until June the payment of duties and taxes on imports and GST and HST payments.
Our top priority is to get you the help you need. To do that, our government must be ready for every scenario. Over the past few weeks, the Canadian Armed Forces have been gearing up to support our efforts and our communities as we fight COVID-19. Our women and men in uniform have always been there for Canadians in their time of need, and this pandemic is no exception. Pour l'instant,
For the time being, the federal government has received no request from the provinces to have the Army respond. But if that were to change, the Canadian Armed Forces would be prepared to answer the call as they have done throughout our history, whether it is to bring medical equipment to those who need it or to help out with forest fires or flooding. Our men and women in uniform are always there for you. They have a plan to support our communities during this difficult period. At noon, a number of ministers and the chief of the defense staff will hold a media briefing to say more about this. We will also talk about emergency planning with premiers of the provinces and territories at our next virtual meeting. I want to take this opportunity to thank all the members of the Canadian Armed Forces for their work and their service. You are always ready to step up, and we very much appreciate everything you do for us.
I know we're all looking forward to the day when things are back to normal, but for that to happen, we all need to keep taking the right steps today. It means following public health recommendations. You know the drill. Stay home as much as possible. Wash your hands often and keep at least 2 meters from each other. And our government will keep doing everything we can to make sure workers are getting paid and companies are supported. The measures we've announced will help do just that and ensure that our economy is well positioned to recover from this. We're going through a tough time right now, all together, but you know, your government has your back. And as always, if we need to do more, we will do more. I want to close this morning by thanking all first responders across the country who are doing an incredible job for all Canadians. Medical professionals, first responders, custodial staff, farmers, people who work along the supply chain. Thank you. Going to work right now is stressful, and I know you're worried. But we are doing everything we can to keep you safe. You are doing essential work, and we cannot thank you enough. As always, Canada and Canadians will get through this by leaning on each other and everyone doing their part. Merci beaucoup, mes amis.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Premier ministre. On va maintenant passer à la période de questions en commençant par le téléphone. Modérateur, c'est à vous.
Thank you. Merci. The first question is from Ryan Tillety, National Post. Your line is open.
Yeah, good morning, Prime Minister. I'm wondering with the wage subsidy, do you have an estimate right now as to what that'll cost the Treasury, what the overall cost of that will be?
We have been making changes to what we've been doing over the past days and weeks. These costs keep climbing, but I can assure people that our focus right now is on making sure that Canadians keep their jobs, even if they're not working at them right now, and keep their paychecks rolling in, that people who lose their jobs get the Canada Emergency Response Benefit to help them get through this difficult time, and that there is credit to access for companies and businesses who need to bridge through in the coming weeks. Our focus is on making sure that Canadians are safe now and that our economy can bounce back strongly after this time of slowdown, of stoppage, is done. Fortunately, Canada has taken responsible decisions over past many years to have one of the best balance sheets in the G7. We have been making sure that we have money aside for a rainy day. Well, it's raining. And we are now able to invest in Canadians, to support Canadians as we make the difficult decisions needed to get through this and come back stronger than ever before.
But do you even have sort of a ballpark estimate? Is this going to be in the tens of billions, the hundreds of billions?
The Finance Minister will be addressing Canadians alongside the Minister of Small Businesses and others tomorrow with many more details, including detailed costings and expectations. Right now, our focus is on creating a program that is going to help Canadians keep their jobs, stay in their jobs, even if they're staying at home, so we can all do the things we need to do to keep ourselves safe, to keep our families safe, to keep our health workers safe, and to keep all Canadians safe. We will get through this. That's what this is about. Okay.
Right now, we are focused on coming through this difficult situation, and in order to do that, we need Canadians to be able to stay home and follow the recommendations in order to help the situation. We know this is very difficult for businesses and entrepreneurs, and that's why we are providing them a wage subsidy so that they can keep their employees on the payroll during this difficult time, so that we can come back and recover quickly at the end of this. That is our priority, and for more details, the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Small Business will be available tomorrow to answer questions. But the important thing is to reassure employers and workers right across the country that we will be there for them.
Thank you. Merci. Prochaine question, Raymond Filion, TVA. À vous la parole.
Good morning, Prime Minister. I understand the details will be coming, but when will this subsidy be paid to employees? Right now, we are working to finalize those details as quickly as possible. And for CRA, it's about ensuring that the emergency response benefit can get to people as quickly as possible. But I can also say now to entrepreneurs and business people and business owners that this help will be getting to them soon. They will be able to rehire their employees, and they should ensure that they will get paid through the credit facility that we made available, because the government will be there to provide a wage subsidy of up to 75% if you're affected by COVID-19. So we are working very hard to get that money out the door in the next few weeks. But in the meantime, you have access to credit, which will allow you to move forward. But know that the government will be there to help you and help your employees. On another topic, the United States provided some very striking figures about what is happening there, but I'd like to know about scenarios. Do you think that Canada is following the U.S. trajectory at this time? Well, I think I would say we're not necessarily on the same trajectory. We were quicker to get the screening done, and I think we have had more success in getting people to self-isolate. But at the same time, we will really see what the clear situation is in the next week or two, based on what people have been doing for the last week, and then we'll know whether that has borne fruit. Everything depends on the choices that people have made and continue to make. But I'm very proud of the way that Canadians have rallied and continue to abide by the guidelines. And I think they understand that we all have an opportunity to have a direct impact on Canada's ability to come out of this. And I'm very proud today to be Canadian.
Prochaine question.
Thank you. Merci. Prochaine question, Hélène Buzetti, Le Devoir. À vous la parole.
Oui, bonjour, Monsieur Trudeau.
Good morning, Mr. Trudeau. Now, the Trans Mountain construction work is continuing. It now belongs to the federal government, and there are some Indigenous communities that are worried about the health of those workers. I'm wondering, as owner of TMX, why you don't stop that construction work. That's a very good question. A number of decisions are being taken right across the country about whether some workers are essential or not, and whether certain types of work should continue or not. And I will be following up on that to give you a better answer tomorrow. And since you don't seem to have the answer now, I'd like to know, with respect to today's announcement, you say there will be serious consequences for businesses that take advantage of the subsidy. Why do you feel the need to warn people? Do you believe that there is a risk that this would be something like an open bar that people could exploit? No, I don't think it will be a program that can be easily exploited. We have developed parameters and criteria for companies in terms of keeping those employees on the payroll or bringing them back in if they were laid off. But we do understand that when the priority is to give help to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, you do have to act quickly, and trust is required in those circumstances. You have to trust people to do the right thing and not take advantage of the system. But I can also reassure everyone that we will have the measures and systems in place in the weeks to come to ensure that there is no abuse, and I can tell you that if there is abuse, there will be severe consequences for anyone who tries to take advantage of the system and therefore take advantage of Canadians during this difficult time.
Prochaine question, dernière question.
Thank you. Merci. The next question, Brian Lilly, Toronto Sun. Your line is open.
Prime Minister, I'm wondering, with the economic hardship that so many Canadians are facing, even once this wage subsidy does kick in, have you or other MPs thought of foregoing your raise that kicks in on April 1st, or pausing the carbon tax that is set to go up by 50% on April 1st?
The price on pollution has been designed as to put more money in households' pockets, more money in the pockets of the middle class, while we do the things that are necessary to fight pollution and protect our planet. That is something we are going to continue to do, because we know that we need to do things to make sure that we're both supporting families through ordinary times and through difficult times, and moving forward on continuing the fight against climate change, which remains even at a time of immediate crisis and pandemic. In regards to salaries, I haven't heard the Parliament of Canada having those discussions, but I'm sure they will reflect on it now that you've asked the question. Okay.
With respect to a price on pollution, we introduced that program in order to give more money to families and more money to the middle class than what it would cost them, because we know it's important to support families while at the same time fighting climate change. And we will continue to move forward with our climate change plan.
The travel screening measures that you talked about on Saturday, you had previously dismissed those for international flights. You had dismissed calls for banning travel earlier on, even just less than 2 weeks before you eventually did. At that point, most of the cases of COVID-19 were travelers coming into Canada. Now it's 63% community spread. Do you regret not acting sooner on travel restrictions at airports for international flights from hotspots?
I think there are going to be lots of analyses after the fact around what happened when, what could have happened a few days earlier, what only needed to happen a few days later. Our focus every step of the way is doing what was necessary at every moment, based on the recommendations of experts, based on science, and doing what we can to keep Canadians safe. We're obviously not in an unprecedented situation, always going to get things perfectly right, but we are going to continue to be committed to doing the right things as best we can, and figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and moving forward in a way that is both nimble and focused on helping Canadians, in so much as a government can be nimble and agile. I think we've demonstrated that we're going to stay focused on Canadians and doing the right things, and that's what we'll do.
Prime Minister Julie Van Dusen, CBC. Hi. How can you get an accurate picture of the extent of COVID in this country without more testing, a lot more testing, especially of those who work in essential services, who may be out there without symptoms and spreading the virus and not even know it?
Over the past few weeks, we've been ramping up massively our testing capacities, and that continues, both with more tests, with better tests, with different kinds of tests, with tests that return results more quickly. These are the kinds of things we know are an essential part of managing the spread of the disease, and indeed reducing the spread of this disease. We will continue to ramp up our testing efforts, but at the same time, The measures around self-isolation that have been put into place are also going to be extremely effective for keeping people at home. If you think you have symptoms of COVID-19, self-isolate. Take measures to not spread. And whether or not you get a test back immediately or tested right away, you can take measures through self-isolating yourself that will prevent the spread. As we move forward, we will get more and more measures to test more accurately, test more rapidly, get those results back, and keep Canadians safe. But right now, these self-isolation measures are an extremely important thing while we ramp up our testing capacities. Okay.
We understand that massive screening is important in order to come through this. And that's why every day and every week we have been substantially increasing our testing capacity and the number of tests that are carried out. And those numbers continue to go up because we need to manage that crisis in the next weeks and months with a lot more testing, as other countries have done. But for the time being, and that's why self-isolation is so important, if you don't feel well or if you have symptoms, it's very important that you self-isolate and not wait for a positive result to take this action. You have to self-isolate immediately in order to protect your family and your community and prevent further spread of the virus.
It's not clear where you stand on the energy sector and if there will be help for the energy sector. And with Canadian oil opening up at less than $5 a barrel today, is there going to be any specific help for the energy sector, and if so, when?
First of all, the emergency wage subsidy that we've announced will help companies large and small across all sectors of the economy, and that will go a long way towards reassuring Canadians and workers that they're going to be able to get through the coming weeks. At the same time, we recognize there are certain industries that have been extremely hard hit by both the drop in oil prices and the COVID-19 challenge, whether it's airlines or oil and gas or tourism. There are significant areas where we're going to have to do more. And as I've said from the very beginning, we will be doing more. Okay.
We recognize that what we did with the wage subsidy announcement will help many, many employees in many economic sectors across the country that have been affected by COVID-19. But there are also particular industries that will be more hard hit than others. For example, the airline industry, the oil industry, the tourism sector, and there we will need to do more, and we're looking at how we can do that.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Janet Silver, Global News. Why isn't the federal government releasing their modeling numbers? In addition, what about predictions there could be a second and third wave? And if you could answer in French, please. Thank you.
We will continue to release the information we have in as accurate a way as possible for Canadians to see how we're doing and where we're going. At the same time, we recognize that what's going to happen a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now is extremely dependent on how people are behaving today. And with the built-in lag in COVID-19 around 2 weeks, with the delays in getting test results and in getting results from provinces, we know that there's not always an accurate picture today of what's happening today. That's why we're going to keep modeling the different scenarios that could happen and continue to emphasize to Canadians how important it is that they abide by the rules and recommendations and guidelines set forward by Health Canada, by Public Health Agency of Canada.
We know that it's important for people to have information about how we will continue to fight COVID-19 and exactly what is happening, and we will continue to share information as it comes. But it's important to realize that we have models that are predicting what could happen depending on people's behavior today. And we will continue to look at a range of scenarios and keep Canadians informed about what is happening as much as possible.
Kevin Gallagher with CTV National News. Today, new screening measures are coming in place for airlines and trains. I'm wondering, many of these people who are conducting these tests to screen passengers for symptoms of COVID-19 are not medical professionals. So how are they expected to adequately do their jobs, and what type of training and protective equipment will these people have?
The fundamental principle we've put forward is if you have symptoms of COVID-19, if you feel you might have symptoms of COVID-19, stay home. Self-isolate. Don't go outside. Don't travel. That is what we're asking of all Canadians. And these measures we've brought in for airlines and railways.
Really embarrassed. I couldn't recognize myself. It wasn't me anymore. I knew I'd better make a change because it's downhill from here. With PIO, it was incredible, the changes I saw in my body. It was the first time I've ever worked out that it was able to kind of lifts everything and gets it toned. I don't even have to worry about going home. I can literally just pop it in.
They have symptoms of COVID-19.
Last week, the business loan of, from the Bank of many pubs and bars and cannabis industry businesses are wondering why they don't qualify for that extended credit for businesses.
What we're putting forward right now is a wage subsidy that will help restaurants and bars and a range of businesses that have seen significant declines in their revenues because of COVID-19 and who've in many cases had to or are about to have to lay off their workers. Now they will be able to keep them on the payroll at 75% or more if they can top it up of their salaries, so that when we are through this, they will be able to pick up again where we left off and get our economy roaring back. That is our focus right now. In terms of access to credit, there are many mechanisms out there for businesses of all different sizes to access credit. For small businesses, there's a $40,000 loan, of which $10,000 will not have to be repaid if they meet certain conditions. There are many things we're doing out there with low interest or no interest loans to help businesses get through this. But the wage subsidy and the Canada Emergency Response benefit for people who lose their jobs are going to be there to make sure that we come through this strongly.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Premier ministre, Christian Noël de Radio-Canada.
J'aimerais revenir sur l'armée. I'd like to come back to the Canadian Armed Forces. In some cases, they are using the Army to produce medical equipment or deliver that equipment. You mentioned a couple of scenarios, but I'd like to know exactly why we might need the Army and under what medical scenario they could be helpful. The Minister of Defense will be at a press conference later and can give you details on that. But I can tell you the Canadian Armed Forces have always been there to help people, to help out Canadians and communities in difficulty, whether it was because of flooding or other emergencies. We know that there are some scenarios under which they could help, and we know that the Army can do a huge number of different things. So we will ask for their help if we need it, and we will always work with the provinces and territories if they request a response from the CAF. But the point is, we're there if they need it. Now, you say that people will receive severe penalties if they abuse the system. How will you know, and how will you penalize them? Well, we'll be putting in place a system in the coming weeks to ensure that this wage subsidy does get to businesses and that the money gets to those companies that truly need it. If there are companies or individuals that take advantage of the program, there will be severe consequences. We're at a time when Canadians have to trust each other and be able to rely on each other, and people who take advantage of a crisis to put money in their own pockets will see stiff consequences on the part of our society, but also on the part of the government.
We'll have
more to say about that tomorrow.
From Maclean's. It's nearly April 1st, and thousands of Canada's smallest businesses are wondering how they're going to pay rent. Their workers are now covered largely by measures you've already announced, but the business owners themselves simply just can't take on more debt, even interest-free loans. Is rent relief on the table for them?
We know that the significant part of business expenses are around payroll, and our focus is right now on supporting workers, supporting Canadians so they can stay home, so they can make sure we're doing the things we need to get through this as quickly and as well as we possibly can. Our focus right now is on this wage subsidy of 75% for employers who need it. That'll give Canadian workers up to $847 a week, depending on what their salary is. These are measures that will make a huge difference in relief for businesses, in relief for workers, in ensuring our capacity to bounce back, to rush back strongly when this is all through. That is our focus right now. But as I've said, these are measures we're doing now. We are always going to look at, are there more things we need to do? Are there other ways that we can and must help people get through this difficult time? We will continue to listen and work with people to make sure that we're able to come through this as strongly as possible and get out the other side as strongly as possible.
Merci beaucoup. C'est qu'est-ce qui m'a fait à la conférence de presse d'aujourd'hui.
Merci tout le monde. Bonne journée.
All right, that is the Prime Minister of Canada with his daily update.